In a question number 3, he asked me to representing this data using a box plot. We have this is a box plot and I have 5 important information from this box plot. The minimum value اللي هي 11 and the maximum value 46, the median 27 and the first quartile 19 and the third quartile 34. So in a box plot we have 5 important information: minimum value, maximum value, the median, the first quartile and the third quartile. But note that the box plot doesn't display the actual values of the data, but it makes it easier to find the median and the first and third quartile. So we have in box plot doesn't represent the actual values of the data. It helped me to find the median and the first quartile and the third quartile. We have a remark. In a box plot, data is distributed along the number line by determining the smallest value, the greatest value, the median, the first and the third quartile. We say that in a box plot we have 5 important informations: the smallest value, the greatest value, the median, the first quartile and the third quartile. Now we have a new concept: misleading graphs. What is the meaning of misleading graphs? Graphs can be an effective tool for illustrating data. However, sometimes they can be misleading if not used properly or if they don't display the data correctly, which can adversely impact deductions. How can we know, or what is the common ways in which graphs can be misleading? When we can say that this graph can be misleading. Number 1, if the vertical axis doesn't start with 0. And the second way, if an unequal scale is used on the vertical axis. Again, when we can say that this graph can be misleading, if the vertical axis doesn't start with 0 and if unequal scale is used on the vertical axis. Remark: carefully read graphs and understand what they represent to avoid being misled by their depiction. Again, carefully read graphs. لازم اخد بالي وانا بقرأ اي graph قدامي to understand what they represent to avoid being misled by their depiction. In this example, both of the following graphs represent the number of post office in governorates of Fayoum, Bani Suef, الأقصر and Kafr al-Sheikh for the year 2021 and 2022. Which graph could be misleading and why? We have the first graph. In a horizontal axis we have governorates and in a vertical axis we have frequency. The second graph we have in a horizontal axis we have governorates and we have in a vertical axis frequency. Which of these graphs could be misleading and why? Graph number 1 is clearly misleading. Why? Because the vertical axis unequal scale. Let's look at the scale of the figure 1. 0, 50, 100, 110. Is this scale is the same scale? No. So we can say that this figure 1 or this graph in figure 1 has unequal scale. Let's look at the graph in figure 1. We have in a horizontal axis we have our governorates and we have in a vertical axis frequency. What about the scale? In the scale 0, 50, 100, 110. Is this scale is the same scale? No. This graph in a figure 1 has an equal scale. So we can say that the graph in figure 1 is clearly misleading. Okay? In the second figure, figure number 2, we have started from 0. In the second figure, we have a horizontal line represents governorates and we have a vertical axis represent frequency and scale goes same. So the figure number 2 doesn't be misleading. Let's look at this example. We have a bar graph shown by the bar graph shown above demonstrates the number of children in families of the first preparatory student in one of the schools. Can you determine the number of with fewer than 5 children? Fewer than 5 children, so we can say that have 1 children, 2 children, 3 or 4 or 5 children. Fewer than 5 children. So we can say that the number of families has 1 children, 2, 3 or 4 children. We have the number of families that has 1 children equal 10 plus the number of families that has 2 children equal 30. The number of families that has 3 children equal 50 plus the number of families that has 4 children equal 40. Equal 130 degrees. Now it's a time to exercise from performance and assessment book. Let's look at example number 1. Choose the correct answer from the given ones. The mood for the values 17, 16, 15, 11, 16, 10 and 16. What is the mood? The mood is the most repeated number. What is the most repeated number in these values? We have 6 repeated 3 times, so we can say that the mood equal 16. Look at this example. Which of the following charts doesn't display the actual data? We have dot plot, histogram, stem and leaf plot, and a bar graph. We have bar graph, dot plot, stem and leaf plot. All of this represents the actual value of the data. So what is the chart doesn't display the actual data is the histogram. Let's look at this example. Choose the correct answer. One of the following graphs represents the highest of 3 friends and other represent the number of tablets and smartphones owned by the employees of company. Which of them is considered misleading? We have in figure number A, horizontal axis represent device and the vertical axis represent frequency. And let's look at the scale: 250, 500, 750, 1000. Let's look at the figure in number B. We have in a horizontal axis the data equal names, and we have in a vertical axis represent frequency. Let's look at the scale: 150, 155, 116. So this is the equal scale. So we can say that only B is misleading.
تقدر تتابع كل دروسك على تطبيق مدرستنا بلس. مدرستنا، المستقبل يبدأ الآن.